We've had so much news this evening about what is going on in Ukraine, but let's not forget it has a very real personal impact, and that is getting our students and citizens out of the war-torn country. We've been following the plight of a number of students who've been battling to leave since the invasion began. Now, about 10 days or so ago, I spoke to a Capetonian medical student in Dnipro in Ukraine. Sputhnick Reddy has since managed to leave Ukraine. He joins me now from Hydrabad in India. Sputhnick, good evening. We first spoke on the 25th of February. At that point, you were stuck in Dnipro. You weren't sure how you were going to leave. Let's just take a listen to a clip of that interview that we had together.
With my friends who are here internationally, our biggest concerns are usually things like shortage of food, water, electricity, Wi-Fi, how to get out of here, and of course, like, we have to deal with our landlords because they're a whole nother case. Yeah, that's usually our biggest issue. And then when it comes to the Ukrainians, it's quite sad because they see us leaving, and then we don't actually have places to keep our stuff, and we keep it at their homes so they can safekeep it for us. It's like truly sad. Like, it's just so horrible to do that. But yeah, they're also quite stressed. Some of them are trying to fly to EU countries. And yeah, that's that.
All right, so that was Sputhnick and chatting to me on the 25th of February. You've since left Ukraine. You're now in Hydrabad in India. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming back to us. Talk to me about how you got out of Ukraine.
I think it was one day. I think it was a Friday, maybe. I'm not sure, but I looked out my window and all the lights were gone. And I started calling my friends how all the lights off, like there were no street lights, everything. And I get a phone call, and people tell me switch off all the lights in the house. I'm like, why? Why would I do that? And they were like, oh, it's because there's info coming in saying that they might strike Dnipro next with an airstrike. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna leave now. And then we start looking online for trains and everything. We contact friends, we make a little group. We see if we can go. And then the earliest train was at 7 o'clock in the morning. I left my apartment at 2 to get there and everything. And then, there were no Ubers. We had to pay extreme prices just for like a 10-minute ride. And then once we got to the train station, the train didn't actually come. It came, there was no train. So we waited for the next train, which was a couple of hours later, which we had to fight to at least to get to the door, but then we couldn't get to the door, so we missed that one. And then we had to wait like another few hours for the next one, and then we were lucky enough to get onto that one. And then from there we took that to Lviv. It wasn't the most pleasant ride, but it was something. At least we got some means of transportation out of the city. And then once we got to Lviv, we had problems looking another means of transportation to Uzhgorod, and then from there to the border. But we were lucky enough that in a few hours we found a person willing. We did have to pay quite a bit though. And then we paid, and then I wasn't able to cross the border with any of my South African friends, unfortunately. So we just went to the train station, met people, and then we formed a group, and then that's how it is. But I did know them from university, so it was nice that there were other students there. And then once we got to Lviv, hired a bus, went to Uzhgorod, and then the bus driver took us further into the border. And then once we got to the border, we had to walk, I think, 4 kilometers. And then it took us a couple of hours to cross the border too. But yeah, that's basically a summary of how it happened.
I mean, it sounds arduous. As you said, you woke up at sort of 2 o'clock in the morning after deciding the night before, no, it's getting too close. Missed 2 trains because they didn't come or you simply couldn't get on them. And then multiple sort of different ways of trying to get to Lviv and then to the border. It sounds incredible. All in all, how long did it take you from that 2 o'clock in the morning start to actually get out of Ukraine?
I think 1.5 days to 2 days.
You must have been shattered. I mean, how did you feel once you realized you were no longer in Ukraine, that you were out of danger?
I mean, there's a sense of relief, but it really isn't there. Like, you don't get that true sense of relief until you get back home, because we're still in a foreign country. Like crossing the border isn't like, I'm across the border, but I don't have a SIM card, I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't have any money. So it's things like that. There are so more worries once you cross the border. So I think the only sense of relief I got was when I came to India to my cousin's place, I'm just like, okay, now everything's fine. I can actually relax, like let my guard down.
I remember when we spoke on the 25th of February, you were telling me that you were quite keen to leave, but your parents were so worried. I think they're from Cape Town, and they were saying, just hunker down. Hopefully this will all be over. They must have been absolutely terrified when you told them that you're going to gap it and you're going to try your best to leave.
Yeah, they were completely against the decision. They weren't very happy with it either. So I just left and I told them afterwards. But yeah, I'm glad it turned out well.
What is happening in Dnipro right now? Are you in contact with people there? Are there still many students stuck in Dnipro?
When I left, like 2 to 3 days after, there were still a few students still there, but I believe now the majority of them have left. The last I heard of Dnipro, it was under lockdown, so there's no one going in and out of it because they were scared of Russian spies. Because I remember when I took an Uber to the train station, they stopped our car to check for spies, and I was like, I'm not even Russian, man, come on. But yeah, but I think the situation is still pretty calm. There's heavy military forces. Well, I don't know if I should say heavy, but there's a lot of them. Like, you can see them around the street corners. There's policemen, there's army people. And I have talked to a few of my Ukrainian friends, and they've all left to Lviv also.
Oh, it's such a worrying situation. Are you in contact with a lot of other South African students who are in Ukraine still? Do you know of how many there are?
No, unfortunately, no. I'm not in contact with any students who are still in Ukraine. All of my friends have gone to either bordering nations or have gone back home.
And what's next for you, Sputhnick? I mean, you say you're with your cousins in India now, so you must, as you say, be feeling some relief. When are you heading back to South Africa? What are your parents saying about your studies, your next move? What are your thoughts at this point?
I think that's the biggest stressor right now because we don't know what our futures hold because we've put our degrees on hold with no guarantee of resuming them anytime soon. So we are hoping that the South African government or other institutions and I don't know, agencies for lack of a better word, but who are involved in training and retention of medical and dental students would hopefully lend a helping hand, and maybe we could transfer in to universities in South Africa. For example, I know GEMP has a third-year entry program. Sorry, WITS has GEMP, which is a third-year entry program. So maybe we could transfer in there, or other universities have spaces from other students who have dropped out, etc. But yeah, we're basically making a plea to those institutions to let us continue our studies because we left the country to go learn medicine. You know, we left by ourselves. We did everything, we just went to a foreign country. We knew nothing, all to learn medicine, and then come back and then help our economy and citizens out. But right now, this is no response for us. We don't know what to say because the South African government should be doing something, but they haven't even issued a notice or anything. They're just silent.
Did you notice that students from other countries were getting better support from their governments?
I mean, yes, they've been getting very good support from their governments. And I was lucky enough to have a dual citizenship and receive that of India's, who picked its citizens up at the border, took them to hotels, fed them, put a roof over them, supplied medical aid, everything. If you lost your passport, they issued passports. They issued emergency passports to you within the hour, and then they flew everybody back home in Air Force carriers. And then from there, they flew them back to their native states. And then they made sure the parents picked them up. They made sure they basically treated you like you were their own children. Like they did everything. But while South Africa didn't even issue an evacuation notice in time, which is quite unfortunate. We really wish the government would do a bit more for us.
Absolutely. And when are you coming back to South Africa?
As soon as possible, but if not, I'm hoping to come back within a few weeks.
Well, I am delighted that you got out safely and that it seems from what you're telling me that your student colleagues have as well. Not quite yet home, but safe in India. Sputhnick Reddy, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Of course, Sputhnick was studying medicine in Ukraine, in Dnipro. He left a difficult journey, but he is now safe in Hydrabad, India.